The honourable member for Brampton West on the same point.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to provide some context that I was able to discover with respect to the evolution of member statements. And I think it's important that we look to the history of member statements as you decide and make a ruling on this important matter. If we want to look at the history, we would start with the third report of the Special Committee on Standings, Orders and Procedures, November 4th, 1982, found at issue number 7, page 19. And the committee says, "Your committee is of the opinion that Standing Order 43 is being misused and that a substitute mechanism is required which would enable members to rise on matters of concern on a daily basis." They go on to say, "Your committee believes that a new standing order is required which would enable members to make statements on current issues on a daily basis for the first 15 minutes of the sitting in a manner that would remove objections arising from the present practice. Under the new recommended procedure, the 15 minutes preceding question period would be reserved for members other than ministers to raise matters of concern for the purpose of placing them on the record. The Speaker would call them members' statements as a routine preceding question period." And this is an important section. It says, "Every member recognized by the chair would be given a maximum of 1.5 minutes to state the matter he or she wishes to place on the record, and if appropriate, appeal for a remedy." Mr. Speaker, that was the report from the committee. When this matter came before the House, the Honourable Yvonne Pinard, President of the Privy Council, gave a long speech, and I'm going to deliver some excerpts from that. He started off by saying, "Madam Speaker, it is with great pleasure and even greater satisfaction that I may present a motion in the House today which paves the way for parliamentary reform, a concept I have always cherished and a goal I have wanted to achieve." Speaking of the reforms, which included a number of reforms in addition to removing Standing Order 43, goes on to say, "The proposed experiment, Mr. Speaker, is interesting and relevant for 3 reasons. First, it will help to upgrade the role played by members of Parliament." I think that's important. It says it will make Parliament more alive and more effective without eroding the right of the opposition to full debate. Finally, the third reason why this experiment will be interesting is that it will update Parliament to give it more respectability in the eyes of the Canadian people. To summarize, the role of members of Parliament will be upgraded, Parliament will become more alive and more effective without infringing upon the rights of the opposition to full debate. Mr. Speaker, when he specifically talks about Section 43, goes on to say, "We are doing away with that parliamentary oddity, Standing Order 43, a move which practically all honourable members fully endorse. It is a proceeding which no longer serves any useful purpose. Doing away with motions under Standing Order 43 is in itself a very positive step. Instead, members will each have 90 seconds to make a point rather than raise objections. I think we should try it on an experimental basis. I am convinced that those who want that experiment to succeed will draw maximum benefits from the 15-odd minutes before a question period." And here's another important section, Mr. Speaker. It goes on to say, "I hope that the Chair, mindful of the intent of the committee report, will recognize honourable members without any regard for party affiliation and that the time available will be equally distributed between both sides." Mr. Speaker, I believe that it is clear what the intent of this was. Now, certainly, a convention has developed here in this House that lists are being submitted to the Speaker. My understanding, however, Mr. Speaker, is that this convention developed for the ease of reference of the Speaker. This was so the Speaker could easily recognize who was supposed to rise in their place and speak. I do not believe that a convention that was arrived at to enable the Speaker to easily identify who should be speaking should trump a member's right to speak in this House. Mr. Speaker, I want to also quote at page 593 of O'Brien and Boss, where it says, "Freedom of speech is one of the most important privileges enjoyed by members of Parliament. And in the notes it goes on to say, freedom of speech enables members to speak in the House and its committees, and this is important, to refer to any matter, to express any opinion, and to say what they feel needs to be said in the furtherance of the national interests and the aspirations of their constituents without inhibition or fear of legal prosecution. Mr. Speaker, if you can't at all rise to speak, you certainly cannot enjoy freedom of speech, which is one of the things that we consider to be sacrosanct in this place. I want to finish up, Mr. Speaker, by talking about the reference to playing on a team. And we are a team, and I'm a proud member of my team. I say that without inhibition. And I can also say that I have never had my right to speak with interfered with. But if we want to talk about a team, my view would be that this is, certainly for backbench MPs, a House League team. We all get equal time in the House. We all get equal time to play. I coach a House League hockey team. Every player gets the same chance to get on the ice and the same amount of time. Of course, there are rep teams. There's a AA team and a AAA team, perhaps the parliamentary secretaries and the ministers. Well, they're a special team. And of course, those coaches get to choose which of those players get to play and when. And then you have no complaint because you're on those teams. But if you're on the House League team and the coach decides you don't get the opportunity to play, well, then what do? Well, I would suggest, just like the member from Langley did, you may have to go to the league to make an appeal, to the league convener, and suggest, I didn't get my time to play on the ice. Convener, I'd like you to perhaps intervene. Mr. Speaker, I think that this is a serious question. I think it's a question of importance to Parliament, and those are my submissions, and I look forward to your ruling.